Hi, Larry. Welcome to Friendly Agent. And for everyone in our audience, just want to introduce, Larry. He's very experienced in Medicare field, and that's his specialty. And he's kind of scaling up at a very good pace. So we thought, we'll get Larry and uh, share his experiences and learning with everyone in our community.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. So first, do you mind sharing, how you got started into insurance and maybe a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I don't think anyone ever says I'm going to grow up and be an insurance agent. And that was definitely not me either. I was working in the church. I was a youth minister, youth pastor for about 8 years. And long story short, my wife and I were able to adopt our daughter, and that changed things. We now all of a sudden I was focused more on family, less on ministry. So that was a sign for me that I had to start figuring something else out. So to be 100% honest, I took a job with Farmers Insurance Agency back in 2010
Okay.
because they were offering $3,000 a month, and nobody else in the insurance industry was offering any type of assistance. And I was coming from a pretty nice salary, so that was the beginning of my journey into insurance. And from there, I had no idea how things would end up and how things were even organized in the insurance industry. So, I mean, I started there. After about 3 months, I realized that I wasn't cut out to be a captive agent. So I quickly left, went to Guardian, because
Okay.
Guardian told me I could be independent and write other companies, but I realized within a year that they really didn't mean that. They wanted me to write Guardian, and
Okay.
if I didn't, they would question that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the journey I took, and I followed what everyone else, what they tell you early on: call your friends and family, that type of thing. And I started getting some family members kind of upset with me, to be frank, and basically told me to lay off family. And so now I had to figure out a way that I was going to create an insurance business without talking to friends and family.
Okay.
And I can go in different directions with that. I can continue that path of how I got to where I am now, or whatever you think
No,
is.
that's good. No, I'm liking what I'm hearing actually. And that's the biggest challenge, right? Like a lot of people, they start and they don't know, what's the right path to move and all. So maybe if you want, you can. So now you are at a very good place. So how did you, figure this thing out that looks like Medicare is your specialty? And, so when did you figure that, yeah, this is what, is making sense, or you should be putting more effort here?
Yeah. Well, my path from Guardian took me to, hey, I'm not going to call friends and family. Now I need to. I love life, and I love the life insurance, and so I journeyed over into final expense.
Okay.
It made sense to me. I buy 20 leads. I write 4 to 5 a week, and that just made sense. Now, I didn't have the cash flow to buy 20 leads a week, so that's where it became kind of challenging. But I did fairly decent and survived for a couple years. And I remember thinking, in the best year I had, I did pretty well. I mean, I was paying my bills, and I was putting away some money. But I remembered waking up one January 1st saying, man, I got to go knock on all these doors again. I got to start over again. It's winter time, and
Mm-hmm.
I had built a decent amount of clients, and I was referring all my Medicare people to a friend of mine who was doing Medicare. And finally, one day, he just said to me, he goes, you got to start doing Medicare. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
you're passing on, you're giving me business, and I love it, I appreciate it, but you know the stuff as well as anyone just from our interaction. You got the client base. Why don't you just go out there and start doing Medicare? And it made sense because it was the renewal income that I was looking for. I knew if I worked hard the first year, it was still going to be tough. Things would not just be great and easy, but I knew that if I can continually add in 20% increase to my business every year, that my renewals were going to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what got me excited. Um,
Okay. Well, that's
so
awesome. And when was it when you kind of, made this transition and started focusing on Medicare? Like, which year was it, or how?
2000, I think it was 2017, 2018 is when I really started
Okay.
focusing on Medicare. And I had been doing final expense, and I had a couple agents out throughout out the country, and one guy recommended me to an IMO out of Utah, and it seemed great, but
Mm-hmm.
I realized they did not know my local market. They were sending me
Okay.
places that the product was not really strong, but I didn't know any better. I was
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'll drive 2 hours and every day doing AP there and back, um and so that was another whole like curveball, if you will. I'm
Okay.
like, I need to find a local IMO that knows the market, knows the hospitals, knows where I should, where basically I like to say knows the pond I should be fishing in.
Okay.
Where should I be marketing to and things like that.
Okay. No, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. So now, like, now kind of you have honed into Medicare. So then, like, what's your process now to get more clients, or, from the marketing lead generation perspective, um, what's working for you?
So when early on, what worked really well was direct mail.
Okay.
And what's really nice for Medicare versus final expense is once you write a little business, the insurance companies are willing to co-op and even pay for a lot of the mailers.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself in a place where I didn't have to spend a lot of money on mailings, and I could do good. I hired an appointment setter. I had a really good system going, and I was recruiting agents, and they would pay the appointment setter. Things were going really well. And what I didn't know was that when AEP came, it was real important to drop mail at the right time, or the saturation from other agents would make your return rate go way down. So I was
Mm-hmm.
going from 3.5%, 4% return outside of AEP to less than 1% doing AEP.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of AEP trying to figure out, like, okay, well, who am I going to see now? I ran out of leads. I can't drop them now. It's in the middle. And so I actually started going to get involved in the community. I went to food banks. I
Okay.
went to senior centers. I started doing presentations, Medicare 101s, and all of a sudden my numbers were even better than direct mail. And honestly, all I was doing was setting up a table with a sign saying, "Hey, you had a question for Medicare or Medicaid? Come
Mm-hmm.
see me." People would come up to me, they'd set an appointment with me, and then I'd go over things, how it worked, and my client base built really well. And then from there, I started partner up with a couple providers, a couple of doctors' offices,
Okay.
and I was referring them business, and they were actually referring people to me who wanted to go to their clinic, but they only were in network with a couple plans.
Okay.
So in order to continue to go to that doctor, their plan had to be switched to one they accepted. So it was
Okay.
that combination really just blew up my business, to be honest. I mean, I just went overnight from, barely. I remember struggling to get to 100. Everyone said once you get to 100, it gets easier. I remember
Mm-hmm.
struggling, like it seemed like it took 2 years for me because I was trying to figure this out on my own. I didn't have a mentor. And
Mm-hmm.
then I hit that 100, and then all these other doors started opening up as well. And the following, it took me like 6, 7 months after that to get another 100. So I was like, okay, I think I've figured this out. So it was exciting.
Okay. No, that's great. So one thing I was curious, in the direct mail, right? Like, what were you offering, or what were you telling them?
Say that again.
So you're saying like you used to send direct mails, right? Initially, where you were having good success. So what
Yep.
was the content of that mail? Like, what was it saying to the customers?
To be honest, I was just using a mailing house. They had their own sample ones that were
Okay.
working. It basically would just say, attention Medicare beneficiaries, you may be entitled to some additional benefits, like dental,
Okay.
OTC, vision, silver sneakers. It would list some additional benefits
Okay.
that they may qualify for, and people would, some of them had check boxes and you would know exactly what they were interested in. Others, it was just generic, and they would just answer the ad, send it back, and then we would just call and set up an appointment.
Okay. No, that's great. That's good to know. And secondly, the seminars which you mentioned, right? Medicare one-on-one and all. So uh, so these were happening at a certain location, right, where seniors were already present. So what uh, for these seminar, like how were you getting people to attend and listen to it? Like, so what was the hook? uh,
Well, mainly I would go into senior centers,
okay.
senior living facilities,
Okay.
and I would just go talk to the event coordinator, activities
Hmm.
coordinator, and I would say, look, I want to do a couple things. Say one, I want to come in and do bingo.
Okay.
I'd go in and do bingo. I might bring another agent or two with me. Um, we would do bingo, because then I said I also would like to do just a little brief Medicare presentation, Medicare 101, educational. I didn't want it. This is not about selling. It's not about. We want to be a resource. We want to give information. And if we do it as an educational, we actually can provide lunch up to
Hmm.
$15 per client,
Okay.
per person who comes. So we would just bring, Jimmy John's in or something like that.
Hmm.
So I would start with the bingo, do the Medicare 101, feed them, and then I would end with bingo again. So it
Okay.
was, we'd do like a 2-hour thing, and then we'd just be at the end. If anyone had questions, we'll be at the back table. So it was fairly simple, but
Okay.
the key was just to really truly be a resource, which probably, to be honest, when I was working direct mail, I mean, I would call myself a lead junkie. I just wanted the
Hmm.
next lead. I didn't totally understand what being a resource meant.
Okay.
And, but being a true resource, being looked at as an expert, being
Hmm.
able to talk about things that no other agents probably even bring it up to anyone, and fielding questions and asking them if they had any questions about their current situation, without coming across as being salesy.
Hmm.
Um, it's just, they looked at you as expert, and then they automatically just would say, hey, you know what, that sounds, I'd like to talk to you. And so then it was, a lot of times we were able to improve their plan
Okay.
and help them with many lower cost drugs or whatever.
Okay. No, that's awesome. That's good to know. So now, like, I mean, so based on your story, right, like, it started in 2010, and like, it's 2022, like, I mean, it took um, some time to figure these things out, go on the right path. So what will you suggest any new agent, who's starting off, like what will be the path of least resistance which they should be taking, if they want to get into similar field and crush
Yeah,
like you?
yeah. There's a couple ways to get into business. I mean, there are some agents I know that started with like a captive agency to learn the business.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit of that is they pay you a salary, you get some bonuses and things like that. Now, the downfall is you don't own the book. So if you
Mm-hmm.
ever do go independent and try to build your own agency, you're starting from scratch. And they do have some pretty heavy non-competes that
Okay.
they will give you. So, you kind of know, but I have agents I recruit and they're in financial situations sometimes where I'll talk to the broker manager for one of the insurance companies and say, hey, are you looking for a captive agent? I have an agent. So again, I would I like all the agents just to work for me and kill it? Yeah, but it's not everyone's financial situation because it is tough at first. The
Mm-hmm.
first year is really tough because of the way Medicare pays us, and until you have the 1 year behind you and have those renewals plus your new business. Um, so one is, figure out your situation. Second is if you want to be an independent agency, find out which carriers are going to be strong and where you're marketing. You don't need to pick up 10 or 12 carriers.
Mm-hmm.
You need 2 or 3 companies usually to get started. And you want to find an IMO that's actually going to train you. I mean, I really recommend people using local IMOs, at least having some local presence of an
Mm-hmm.
IMO so that the person can do a training. You can have a mentor, you can have a coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important because this business is like when you're killing it, you feel like you're on top of the world, the top of the mountain, and you have 3 or 4 bad days, and you're ready to dive off the top of the mountain, like because it's that much, and so it's really important to have coach. Sometimes people I recruit, they look at me as like I'm their manager, and I'm not because I'm
Mm-hmm.
really a coach because it's their business.
Mm-hmm.
If they're successful, the companies do pay me a little bit of an override, but I don't take it from them. But having someone who is a true coach is going to help you set up a realistic marketing plan that's repeatable that you can do. And if you're short on funds, what are you willing to do in exchange for buying leads? Like I was
Mm-hmm.
willing to go to a food bank. I had never been to a food bank. Put out a
Mm-hmm.
table. People are talking. Everyone was so nice. Everybody's, asking me all kind of questions. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so being realistic about what you're really gonna make. These recruiting companies offer, telling you you're gonna make 100,000 in year one. Is it possible? Not in Medicare, it's impossible. There's no way you're going to do that. But even in the insurance business, you don't know enough to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do that. So to be realistic, to say, hey, look, I'm probably going to only make this much, 20, 25, 30 grand my first year, um, and plan accordingly. And I'm going to invest this. Find a company that's going to, you know, not make you pay for all the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Find a company who has a reputation in the area who's going to be able to co-op some things,
Okay.
and then just having a game plan and following it, because I think that's the biggest things. We'll throw out all these little different ideas that people can do, but no one like sits down, and not very few sit down and say, I'm gonna just do this. This is my personality. This is where I can be successful, and this is something I can do day in and day out and repeat over and over and be successful. So I think that's really the biggest key is, do
Mm-hmm.
you have support financially on the leads or co-oping or whatever it is? Do you have the support of someone who's going to train you in the business? Because it's not an easy business to learn. There's so many rules, so many things that you need to know ahead of time, and to
Mm-hmm.
have someone help walk you through, it's just a huge asset to helping you become successful.
No, got it. No, thank you. So one thing you mentioned, interesting, that find a local IMO, and I think you also moved from one IMO to another. So what does, how can somebody find the right IMO? Is there any easy way, or it's just through referrals and?
Um, boy, that's a really good question. I mean, the industry right now is really interesting because there's when I started, even in 2016, 17, there was about 13 or 14 national marketing organizations, NMOs.
Okay.
Those are the companies that go direct. Now there's a bunch of offshoots of those 14, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone had to go through those 14 in some way. Somehow they were connected. Now it's about 3 or 4, and
Mm-hmm.
there's been 1 or 2 companies that have been buying up most of them. So just Larry's opinion, my personal
Mm-hmm.
opinion, I like to work with one that's still family owned and on. That don't mean they're small, it's just family owned and they operate out of being family owned. That's something that's important to me. It doesn't bother other agents to work with some of the bigger the organizations that own, most of the companies now. So it's still it is kind of tricky if you don't know
Mm-hmm.
where to start, but
Yeah.
you can usually some of the best things to do is really talk to other agents who are in the business. And so when you first, like right now, this time of the year, there's all
Mm-hmm.
kind of different insurance company events for
Mm-hmm.
brokers. So the new plans are coming out. They're having these road shows and stuff like that. Attending things like that, you'll get to meet some different agents. You can even you can kind of pick people's brain, and it's like, hey, who are you with? You like them? What's going on with
Mm-hmm.
them? How do they operate? That type of stuff. Um,
Okay.
it's not easy to find the right one. I know where to look now
Mm-hmm.
because I've been in the business, but I'm trying to think back when I was new. Um, I didn't know what I didn't know. I mean, like I said, the first companies out of Utah telling me I should work a rural area 2 hours away from me, and I'm like, all right, these guys are successful. The plan I was leading with wasn't even competitive in their markets, and then
Mm-hmm.
in my own backyard, the plan we had was the top plan in the area. But it just
Okay.
shows that because they didn't have a local presence, they didn't know. They were just looking at numbers on the screen. Hey, look here, there's a lot of Medicare people in this county, and it's rural. Check it out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just I really ask questions. I mean, if you're in the business, you're probably going to get recruited. They usually find you before you find them.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say just ask a lot of questions. One last thing I would like to add, just so no one's taken advantage of. There are some organizations out there that you're not vested day one. So
Mm-hmm.
you think you even on the independent model, you join a group and you think it's your business. Well, it's not. It's their business, because if you leave in the first 2 years, they will actually keep your renewals. You're not
Okay.
truly vested. So questions, I would say, whenever you're talking to anyone, questions to ask: are you vested in day one?
Mm-hmm.
Are you paid directly by the carriers and not by the IMO? Because if
Okay.
you paid by the IMO, you're actually an LOA agent, which basically means the agency gets paid and then they pay you.
Okay.
They technically can own the book that way. You leave in 2 years, it rolls up to them and they don't owe you anything. So those are the
Mm-hmm.
type of things that, I didn't know. And
Okay.
those are questions that someone who wants to get into business uh, should know before, because then you make a mistake and then you write 30 apps and you can't go
Mm-hmm.
call those 30 people for 2 years or whatever, a year and a half, whatever the non-compete is.
Okay. No, thanks for sharing. I mean, that these are really important things, and not everybody knows. So, so that's great. Now, one thing kind of interested me. You mentioned like a lot of these big companies are buying and becoming bigger and bigger. So, like, can you also buy the smaller, agents book of business or agency, Medicare
Yes.
agency? Can you do
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And that's really hard to find. I'm still trying to figure out I'm on a couple mailing lists that send me when agencies are for sale and stuff like that. But I
Okay.
haven't really seen a whole lot of Medicare agencies for sale. I'm still trying to find that myself and trying to figure out where to find that book. I mean, you hear word of mouth sometimes, just being in the area. But it is a good question. You can do it. You
Okay.
definitely can buy it. It's just finding that right opportunity. And then, I mean, I got approached recently by someone who wanted me to buy their book. It wasn't a big book. It was like 50 clients, and I was very open to it. But I said, before I even talk any price, before I even know if I'm interested, I want to know, what is the average age of your clients? Can you send me the list? So she sent me all her clients and their ages, and 67% of all her clients were over 80. And I'm just like, I can't buy this. So it's a 67% of them are past life expectancy already, and some of them are into their 90s. And I said, I'm gonna buy it, and then half the people die. I'm gonna lose on this or break even, and so those are that's just something that came up recently. But those are the type of things. Let's looking at the whole picture.
Okay. No, that's great. That's interesting. And I don't know how the valuation goes in my Medicare, but in PNC side, it depends. And sometimes you can get a book for 1.5 times the renewal. So, I mean, if that's the case, right? Like even if they survive for 2 years, you'll recover your money.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's between 1.5% and 2.5%. I've seen both. I think it depends on the conditions. I have an agent that knew someone who's been in the business for, I think, 30 years, and he wanted out. Well, he had 1,400 clients, and he split it up, 700 and 700, sold it to two different agents, and they paid 2.5%, but he worked out a deal with them where each month the commission they got, they paid half of it to him for 5 years, and it ends up being 2.5%. So for them, it was great. No money out of pocket, no issues. It just can service it, make sure you don't lose a bunch of clients. But having that handoff, the handoff was done really well. Anytime he'd get a call, he'd say, "Oh, Sue's taking over. You got to call her, whatever, Judy, whoever's taking over." But
Okay. No, that's interesting. That's good.
Yeah.
No, so that's great. So, anything like from any future plans you have, Larry, or what are your ambitious goals which you are trying to maybe achieve in next few years?
Well, honestly, my most ambitious goal right now is trying to recruit agents to duplicate what I've done, to try to help them shortcut the process a lot shorter than it took me. So far, I've been pretty successful with that. I'm not trying to build, 100 agency. I'm trying to find just little key people in different counties in Ohio. And then once we have Ohio covered and we're got things moving along, I'm licensed in a couple other states. I'll work on trying to have a local presence in those states. But really, for me, what gets me excited each day is when I bring in a new agent and I'm helping them, make life-changing type of money. I mean, that's what my focus is. We're adding other products, but we're still always just marketing and recruiting to Medicare first. But we do life insurance, we do annuities, we do home and auto insurance. But it's not really it's more like add-ons to our clients versus going to seek new clients with those products. So.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
So,
Thanks for
so some
having me.
no, I mean that was awesome. You shared a lot of great insights, and anybody who's either in business or starting off, I mean, they will gain a lot with this conversation. So, where can people find you if they want, if somebody want to reach you, or do you want to
I mean,
any
really,
point?
it's just that I'm in the process of building a website, so I don't even have the web presence. And when I look at some of the things that I've accomplished without doing some of the
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote normal things,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, hey, how'd I get this lucky? But uh, my email is Larry at Larry Booksh, BOOKSH.com. And then my phone number in my office here is 330-203-1270. And I'll be happy to talk to anyone who's just interested in picking my brain to where they're at and direct them to accordingly if they want a certain type of industry, a certain type of field in our industry. I can direct them because I've kind of had my hand in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'd be
No,
more than happy just to like share my experiences and even drop maybe a couple of names of people they can contact. And
sure. No, thank you. Thanks a lot, Larry. It was really awesome.